Why is secure communications important? Well, a number of years ago, there was an incident on the Terra grid. It was big. It became an international incident. In the midst of responding to it, we discovered that the intruder was not only reading the email, but was listening in on the phone discussions, which were all unencrypted and open at the time. So he was fully aware of what we were doing and how we were trying to respond to him. That was a very big lesson learned. We have a tendency in academia to think that our stuff's no big deal, that we're just working on little projects, nothing important, nothing anyone will be interested in. But incidents can get pretty serious sometimes, and the people we are dealing with can be pretty smart. Along with this topic, Randy Butler, Director of Cybersecurity at NCSA, stated, "I can also tell you, while this isn't really talked about with cybersecurity plans and threats so much, but I am involved in a cybersecurity subcommittee with the FBI and NSA and the like. They give you a little bit more information about the threats that are out there, and a lot of the nation states that are a lot more active on academic sites than you might believe. These are people who are capable of listening into your conversations if they want to, so you definitely take this area of how you communicate during your incident seriously. It's not business as usual." Now remember, we're not talking about a person-to-person call here. If your phone is being tapped, that's beyond the scope of our security concerns. What we are talking about is conference calls or multi-person calls. When you're on these, make sure you know everyone who is on. Authenticate each person. Listen for people joining the call and verify them. That's one nice thing about a system like Microsoft Lync. It shows you how many people are on the call and what their signed-on name is. If you don't recognize someone, find out who it is and why they are on your call. Attacks from nation-states might be one threat that you should think a little bit more about. Some countries are really good at taking technology and using it. This starts to get into insider-based attacks. Professors and students who might be involved in a project and are properly vetted have access to vast amounts of information. They can steal it and send it back to their own country. This is the type of thing you can monitor for, and these are things that do happen. Typically, they are looking at sensitive information, things that might be turned into something important, interesting research that might be turned into secret-level stuff. While this concern might not apply to every project, it is something you should become aware of and at least think about as part of your risk assessment. Direct person-to-person calls are a good way to communicate. You know who is calling you or who you are calling. There is automatic authentication in these instances. PGP is a really good tool for email. There are lots of plugins for email clients, so it makes it pretty simple to use. Once you have installed PGP and coordinated with the rest of your team and resources, you can all sign each other's keys, and that way you have secured your email communications. You might also have the need to use some type of instant messaging tool. Jabber is a good one to look at. We use Jabber at NCSA since it allows for encryption in its messaging. This gives us a secure, real-time, online communication path for team members to use while in the middle of dealing with an incident. Secure phone conferencing becomes very important. It is something you need to think about. As we mentioned a moment ago, we had a case where the intruder was listening in on the incident response team's phone calls. Even though the majority of conference systems require a passcode, you will still want members to verbally authenticate as they join the conference. Secure wikis are another tool to consider. You might want to store important information about the incident or even the write-up of the post-incident. The Secure Wiki gives you a place to put this information and a way to control access to it. Monitoring becomes a really important part of your incident response program. When considering your security systems, you will probably want to go from the top down. If you can, take a look at what kind of security practices you currently have in place, and what you would really like to see security be moving forward. You might want to reevaluate your passwords. Are you using multi-factor authentication? If you can start using two-factor passwords, you might want to consider making that change. Passwords are one of the weakest points in any system, so anything you can do to improve on them is a good, easy first step to take. Intrusion detection systems are another important tool to have in place. The Bro monitoring system is a great tool. It's a great tool for monitoring the system and looking at what's going on, but it's also a great tool for providing log information in a response situation. Firewall logs are another important source for information. These logs, along with anything coming off your routers, can give very important information on what's been happening on the system. These logs will give you information on who and what has been trying to get into your system, who's been running scans on your routers, and what kinds of things have been going on. Vulnerability scans are great for getting information about your system. If you are struck by a zero-day incident, you can look at your scans and see which systems might be vulnerable. Some of these systems will also keep a database of information for you. The scans will indicate systems and services that might be vulnerable to various attacks, and then let you know when they've been patched. Log analysis is another critical area. You're going to have lots of log files coming from various systems, services, and network devices. It will be difficult for a single person to keep up with them. It's useful to have some type of service that can look for correlations in them and can dig through them looking for things. Logs just give you events. They will tell you things like who logged on or off, or who tried to log onto a system 20 times without success. These things become important, for example, when intrusion detection is trying to track back through what happened. When did it start? Where did the person go? Logs are one of your best sources of information. DHCP and services like that can be useful sources of information. Services that bind an IP to a host or to a person requesting it. So if somebody comes in and plugs a laptop into your network, it would be nice to know when that happened, what the MAC address was, or other information that will help you associate things to that IP address. In case that's where everything started from, it helps you track back to that and maybe find out who's responsible for bringing that system in. Using net flows of your routers is a good way to capture network information. This is a pretty common tool now. It can pretty much capture any level of detail about your network traffic that you want. Most people have this set up for just capturing headers off the network itself. This is really good for reconstruction. Typically, you're not going to do analysis off this information since you are only keeping little chunks of information, and since there will be so much volume to this information. But it can be helpful if you get anything going on that you can use this information for monitoring, or to use to go back through and try to trace through a specific flow to see where it did come from, what was going on, and critical information like that. Storage and usage information helps you know what is normal on your system, how much space is being used regularly, and how are resources normally being used. These data points can become important triggers to alert you that something is going on. Syslog is a good place to look for information and indicators that something odd is going on. Some systems even have keystroke monitoring. This can be very useful when figuring out what happened and who did what on your system. Anything you can use to help you know something is going on is very important. But possibly what is more important about some of this information is in helping you know that you have truly eradicated the threat and recovered your system. That can be the hard part of an incident response, tracking an event back to its beginning and seeing everything that happened. Anything you can do to improve your confidence that you have truly fixed the problem is crucial. We've had incidents before where we thought we'd fixed them, but later discovered we'd missed something. So dig as much as you can from as many sources as you can to try to limit that kind of thing from happening. Authentication logs are a real go-to place for investigating an intrusion. Obviously, you want to monitor your login attempts. This should become one of your alert systems as well. This gives you information on who is getting in on what accounts, or what accounts are being attacked, or if there is an attack on multiple accounts. This information might tell you where they're coming from and other identifiable information. Things like what version of software they're using. This helps you with tracking the activity. If you start to notice that every time someone from this location uses a particular version of software, it helps you narrow down your search. This helps you focus your inquiry and more fully ensure that you're tracking the important information. If you would like more help with building a security system, please contact CTSC. You can get contact and other information on the CTSC website, trustedci.org. CTSC Online is made possible by funding from NSF, grant number OCI 1234408.